think about tonight is whether equality is what we want and what we should want. There's a film about to appear on the BBC called Women, which begins with women's livers, in which I portray a beached walrus, partly because of the photography that was used, and partly because of the gradual degeneration of my bodily essence. And it's quite interesting because Robin Morgan and Susan Brownmiller are both asked, some of you will recognise those names, are both asked, what is the problem? And they both say, men. Really? I know Americans are politically naive, that's pretty blindingly obvious, but to really think that the existence of the other sex is the source of all our woes strikes me as a failure to address the way in which gender relations have become politicized and what the mechanisms are that continue to control those interactions. In some ways, they've got worse. They've certainly changed. Now, if you think equality, what are you thinking about? What is equality? It's a really weird notion. What is equal? Apples are not equal to oranges, but 5 is equal to 5. What are we saying here? Are men going to come down to meet us? Or are we going to go down to meet them? Or is the journey upwards? The idea was that women, for example, should get equal pay. What for? Work of equal value. Well, now there's a lie. Think about that. Work has no intrinsic value. Repeat it to yourself. It's a mantra. Don't forget it. Because women make a mistake. They think, I'm doing a really valuable job here. I'm looking after the elderly. I'm looking after children. I'm taking care of a disabled relative. This must be worth something. No. It's been demonstrated to you a million times. It's not worth anything. Unless work is worth what you can force the employer to pay for it. Not a penny more, not a penny less. So why can't women force the employer to pay for their work? Because they have no structure. There is no collective bargaining. There is no collective strength. A handful of people who know how to lobby can get what they want, as the city of Liverpool has every reason to be. But a horde of people with the same beating wish in their hearts can make no impression unless they can somehow develop collective might. But women have a big problem when it comes to developing collective might. One is, of course, that they tend to sleep with the enemy. I'm using the Robin Morganism here, but it is certainly true that women, first of all, relate to their families who have the primary core of their energy. They also do nearly all the domestic work, regardless of whether husbands want to do it or think they do it. The fact is, they don't do it. And when they do it, they want an OBE. They want gales of applause. They put a meal on the table and you'd think it was a Wagnerian prelude that they actually produced in the kitchen. Why do women do all the work? Well, when I go into student digs, mixed digs, what will I find? That the boys are drinking the girls' coffee. Surprise, surprise. The boys are using the toilet paper and never remembering to replace it. The boys are never brushing the toilet after they've used it and they've never cleaned it. Because they say they don't mind whether it's cleaned or not. But the girls are meant to mind, because if you don't mind, you're a slut. And in fact they do, because it's got something to do with the quality of life. Give a woman a little bit of spare time and she'll work. She'll invent a task concept she doesn't get is leisure. Now, the reasons for this might be similar. If we go back to the gorillas in the mist, we find that the silverback does absolutely nothing. From morning till night, he sits there. He is waited on, hand and foot. Every task is delegated, except perhaps the task of breastfeeding and shouting when a rival group of simians appears. The women, on the other hand, doing all the food gathering, all the child raising, as well as servicing the old man when he feels like it. Why do women not know about leisure? Now, you see, we could say equality means that women are going to get it. They're going to actually say, I'm going to start building a boat. I'm going to become an angler. I'm going to spend £25,000 on angling equipment, on my couch and my pornography and my TV, and get down to the muddy riverbank, and I'm going to make life miserable for the men who are mostly there because women aren't there. Because that's another enormous inequality. Men don't like women very much in general, and women love men. And that is our principal disability. We love them. We feel guilty about loving them, especially when it's our sons that we love a little bit more than our daughters, who have a greater hold over us than our daughters, who are more easily praised by us than our daughters, who generally might also be less waspish towards us than our daughters. This is a real contrast. Does it have to be there? Well, probably not. If I was going to argue that it had to be there, you'd call me an essentialist. I'm not sure if I'm an essentialist or not. It's just that I really do think that women are different. They're made a different way. And you could say, well, what women had better do is behave as if they had a damaged chromosome. But if psychologically knock that leg off that X and turn it into a Y, start secreting more testosterone. Actually, poor old testosterone is a terrible press. It's quite a useful hormone, and it aromatizes into other useful hormones, and a woman my age has probably more than a man my age. But the idea is, the banking crisis was caused by this body fluid that flooded these young Turks and made them take insane risks and fight virtual wars with our money and lose it all. I don't think it's true, but we still don't have all the bets in about that. So, do I want women to become more manlike? Would that be equality? In some ways, it's been very important for women to go into the army. I don't know how you feel about the army, but I think the armed forces, I should say, the armed forces are like an open prison. That when you go into the armed forces, you surrender a measure of your autonomy as a human being. You agree to do as you are told. And you have to do as you are told because your comrades depend on your doing as you're told, not dithering, not having second thoughts, not going AWOL, not deserting, and not listening to the enemy. But women had to go there. It was no part of a step towards freedom. It was part of a step towards equality. And so what really happened then? Women went through the whole thing. As you know, the history of women in the armed forces is that they began as a support service. They were secretaries, they were nurses, they were orderlies, they were cipher clerks, they did jobs like that. They also did another job, which was to comfort the troops. The British have always preferred women of their own country. They haven't followed another fashion, which is to turn the women of an occupied country into comfort troops, into comfort ladies. As far as we know, we don't discuss it very much.